Joining us now, our Wednesday NHL insider from TSN and the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, our friend Mr. Darren Dreger. Back with Sekeres and Price. Hello, Dregs. How are you?
I'm doing well, fellas. How are you guys?
Yeah, pretty good.
Nothing happening here, Dregs.
How surprised were you to hear Jim Rutherford and Patrik Allvin yesterday on their coach, Bruce Boudreau?
Somewhat surprised, not shocked, but somewhat surprised. I guess I was mostly surprised by the detail that Jimmy Rutherford provided and Patrik Allvin. You know, there's been a whole lot of speculation and talk about what that contract looked like, Boudreau's contract, that is. And, you know, we believe that there was an option. In this case, it turns out it's Boudreau's option. But some wondered if the Canucks also had one. But now we know that it's a June 1st trigger. So Boudreau has until June 1st to opt in or opt out for next season with the Vancouver Canucks. So really, that's a window of opportunity for Bruce Boudreau. You know, given his level of success in Vancouver, you know, I guess it would have been real easy for the Canucks to engage quickly in an end-of-season negotiation to take him beyond that first year, but they're not there yet. So they're more than willing to take him back to fulfill the remainder of his agreement, but I don't think there's any doubt that Boudreau is disappointed. And is likely very hopeful that a team in the market for a coach. And, you know, we don't know what that market entirely is yet. We know the teams that have expressed and come out and said, all right, we're not bringing this coach back, but playoff loss always encourages change. So we could see more open seats, and that's probably what Bruce Boudreau is hoping for, not to escape Vancouver, but to perhaps get a little bit more leverage to see if the Vancouver Canucks want to go beyond next year.
What's your understanding of what can happen in between now and June 1st? There seems to be some confusion as to whether or not he can shop his services around or even talk to other NHL teams, or whether or not he just has to make his decision in a vacuum. Now, of course, we're not so naive to believe that there can't be a little phone call here, a little off-the-record conversation here. So that stuff happens. But at least for public consumption and facing frontward, is he allowed to talk with other teams?
I think he would have to get permission. And I guess I'm not 100% on that. It's simply an opt-in or opt-out, right? Like he has another year remaining on that agreement. So he is under contract.
Right.
You know, and that's the tricky timeline. Like I just said, we know the spots that are looking for coaches. Could there be turnover after disappointment of round one or round two? Yeah, obviously that's the case. But I got to believe that, let's use Philadelphia as an example, because we know that Chuck Fletcher is looking for a coach. You know, if Chuck wants to engage with Bruce Boudreau, he would have to seek permission, I would think, from the Vancouver Canucks. And, you know, where's their guarantee that Vancouver would say, yeah, no problem? I mean, it'd be a pretty clear indication. You know, I guess they'd have to go to Bruce or not and say, well, we've had a team inquire, but where are you? You know, are you interested in coming back, or are you not? So it could get tricky in that sense.
Well, in that respect, Dregs, you know, when you have a coach on an option and you say we're not going to extend him and we're going to wait and hear whether he wants to be back with us, I mean, you're effectively daring him to leave. You're effectively saying without saying we have other people in mind. Well,
yeah, and look, we also know Bruce Boudreau has representation, right? So it again, given how transparent the Canucks were in the availability yesterday, well, if it, you know, I use Philadelphia as the example. Exhibit A could be any number of teams, I suppose, but you know, you could, I guess, reach out to the agent and say, you know, what are the chances here that Boudreau is going to want to go back to the Vancouver Canucks, and he's going to opt in on June 1st, because no guarantees, but we'd like to talk to him. That also adds another layer of the trickiness, though, doesn't it? Because, you know, if you're, you know, if you're the agent or you're Bruce Boudreau, there's a big difference between being offered a job as an NHL head coach and just being offered, you know, an opportunity to interview, right? You know, Boudreau's been around a long, long time. I don't think that he'd even consider opting out of the Vancouver situation unless he knew he was a slam dunk for another job.
Yeah, stands to reason. Think of how awkward and uncomfortable this will be, though, on day one of training camp next year for Boudreau. And then think about a 4 or 5 game losing streak in February, guys. Like, I just, the capacity of this thing to blow up next year if Bruce comes back is pretty significant. And I'm surprised that a wise, sly, political survival operator like Jim Rutherford would allow this to go down. Like, it's got so much potential to blow up in everybody's face next year.
Potentially, yes. But look at, again, the number of coaches this year that were either interim coaches or on expiring contracts. Like, I don't remember another season where you had as many as 10 NHL coaches potentially out of work. I don't remember another season like it. I really don't. And I don't know if this is kind of a correction phase for NHL owners, where you had the Joel Quenneville's and the Mike Babcocks and the big money men, the $4 to $5 million per year NHL coaches, perhaps spiraling out of control financially. So the owners maybe seized an opportunity with Babcock and Quenneville being outside looking in now, going, no, hold on a minute here. This is one way, especially in a pandemic when we're trying to, protect resources, of yanking the chain tight and trying to save some dollars. So coaches appear, the unproven, I suppose, to be getting shorter terms and less money. So maybe Rutherford and Patrik Allvin's position is, well, we like Bruce. Bruce did good things for the Vancouver Canucks, but we haven't seen enough of him yet to extend that contract. So we're willing to roll the dice and take our chances with the June 1st deadline looming, but also the possibility of walking away from each other after next season.
It feels like Jim Rutherford really is approaching his job, his tenure here, with the idea that he's taken over scorched earth and that he doesn't care what happened before him. He's going to stick to his plan and not chase the short-term goals of merely making the playoffs or appeasing fans because they haven't had much to cheer for lately. He's just going to stick to his guns.
100%. That is an excellent observation, and it's 100% accurate. And, look, I mean, you guys are a tapped-in media in Vancouver, right? With lots of opinion and always willing to speculate. And some managers and top executives, and Rutherford is that. And then he's got his GM at Patrik Allvin and the hockey operations department. They're not moved by any of that. The noise outside that organization doesn't get to them, or it doesn't appear to be getting to them. So they, maybe they're aware that we're talking about this stuff hour by hour, but frankly, I don't think they care. They're going about their business, and that includes Bruce Boudreau's future, and that includes, what their vision of this Vancouver Canucks roster is going to look like next season. Jimmy Rutherford is going to provide his opinion and his direction. Patrik Allvin is going to provide his expertise as an inexperienced general manager, but I'm sure that, his vision aligns with Jim Rutherford and the assistant general managers, and they're just going to work accordingly. So I don't think that they're stepping off script even a little bit for anyone.
One of the things that is interesting to me is poked around this story is that Rutherford's deal only requires him to be here 7 days a month. So a lot of the day-to-day seems to be Patrik Allvin, and I think some of us thought, hey, if Jim Rutherford's running a team, he's going to have both hands on the wheel. And like he's got one and Patrick's got the other. And Patrick's doing a lot of the day-to-day stuff at Rogers Arena.
As he should. He's the general manager. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Rutherford has always, though, guys, had a real strong hockey operations department. And, you look at the men in the National Hockey League now, Bill Guerin, of course, comes to mind, Jason Botterill, go down the list of all of these real good lieutenants that Jimmy Rutherford has brought up to NHL general manager ranks. And that obviously includes now Patrik Allvin, who we worked very closely with in Pittsburgh. He delegates, here's your area of responsibility. Now go out and get the job done. I'm sure he has multiple conversations every single day with not only Allvin, but, I'm sure, again, other members of the hockey operations department. Rutherford would be on top of everything. He would have an opinion on everything. But you can't be a general manager in the National Hockey League without having a level of autonomy, without being able to say, all right, I'm willing to move on that. But that would be in concert again with the AGMs and with Rutherford and the hockey conversations that you've had to that point. So I don't see Jimmy not being around as a huge issue. I think the communication level there is still pretty high.
Yeah, I'm more wondering about the Boudreau-Allvin relationship without Jim there most days. You know, because it sounds to me like that is where the breakdown is, that Allvin wants to play a certain way and that Bruce Boudreau has his own style of play. And that seems to be where the discord is.
It could be. Yeah, it could be. I haven't heard that, but you know, and again, Bruce is a veteran coach. He's been around the National Hockey League, been around the game forever, his entire adult life, in fact, dating back to his time as a player. I'm sure that he's got a real good collection of philosophies and ideas and routines that he observes and probably isn't going to change for anyone. You know, can he be influenced? Does he accept input from management? Of course he does. You know, Bruce is a pretty easygoing guy. Maybe Patrik Allvin has his own ideas on how things should work, you know, both on ice, being in practice, or in games, adjustments, how players individually are being played, off ice routines, all of that, you know. Wouldn't be the first general manager and head coach that maybe didn't disagree on the direction or how individual players are being coached. But I don't know that. I don't know that their relationship isn't very, very solid at this point.
That leads me to the criticisms of the play on the ice, which, you know, they seem to jump into with both feet themselves. They weren't necessarily led there by the questions of the reporters at all. They see the holes, very much so. And of course, most notably, and Jim Rutherford made it clear, I'm going to bring up an example about breakouts. It's not, or about zone exits. He said I could talk about the other ones too, but this is the one that he brought up, which makes us think that there are still big changes ahead for this team. Do you think they have started to sort of put in pencil, at the very least, the names that they would like to move on? And could Canucks fans dream so big as to have a big contract like an Oliver Ekman-Larrson move on so quickly after it was acquired?
Well, yeah, I mean, I haven't heard that name specifically, Blake. I think that you have to be open to all considerations and options and have conversations with other general managers about some players that you probably have no intention on moving. So I think that given where the Vancouver Canucks are now, the needs that they have, the areas of their roster that they're going to have to address, the cap issues that they're going to have to address, I think that they have to consider just about everything and everyone. Do they have lists? Oh, absolutely. But I think that list extends across 31 other teams too, right? Players that, you know, the hockey operations group of the Vancouver Canucks believe will be in play or were in play leading up to the trade deadline. Maybe some of the unrestricted free agents that are playing outside the National Hockey League, like, you know, Kuzmenko and some others that have been discussed. So I think all of that is fair game. I don't think that there's any question that this team is going to look, I would say, considerably different. So whether that means different in the sense that they're bringing in some players and obviously going to have to move out some, that's an option, or move out a bigger piece like you've mentioned. I think that there's so many possibilities here. The one thing I know is that they got a real good appetite for success, just based on the way the Vancouver Canucks stayed in the playoff hunt, but they know that they need to be a playoff team next year. I mean, that's the goal, or at least, you know, get as close as they did this year. They can't take a step backwards. So how do you make that work? That's going to be the challenge for everybody involved.
Yeah, and Allvin said yesterday he doesn't want to take a step back, but didn't necessarily guarantee it would be onward, forward. So you're quite right. It is quite a pickle. Let's say Bruce opts out, says, can't do this, don't feel like I'm supported well enough. How strong a candidate would Paul Maurice be, given his relationship with Rutherford?
Well, I can understand why you and others would make that connection, you know, and it's just so obvious given their history, right? And they remain very, very good friends. I'd call it a long shot at best, Matt, at best. Wow. I just feel like where Paul Maurice is at in his career, he is going to be super selective. And, again, that's not to say that he doesn't look at the Vancouver Canucks as being a competitive team, a team on the rise. I think that it has to fit everything about his life. He's got kids in university, some of them graduating. Where are they going to be? That sort of scenario. I'd be surprised, very surprised, that Paul Maurice is coaching in Canada or coaches in Canada again. I just think for family reasons, he's got an incredibly short list of teams that he'd be willing to consider in the U.S. He's done well, so I don't get the sense that he is in any rush to get back, but he is willing to consider the right opportunity. Vancouver isn't the right opportunity.
Hold on a second. So he coaches the Leafs with a roster that has no chance of winning, and big bad Winnipeg scares him to the USA?
Well, maybe it's the weather in Winnipeg.
Yeah, that's scary in and of itself.
Hey, Vancouver, we're a lot closer to California, or at least Seattle weather.
I hope he's crossed Minneapolis, St. Paul off his list then, because my goodness, it's just as bad there.
Yeah, I would think that's probably likely as well.
Just lastly, on the coaching and GM carousel, what situations are you watching here in the coming days?
A little bit of everything, right? I've heard some interesting names pop up around Philadelphia, like Quenneville, John Tortorella, guys like that. I don't think that there's any accuracy to that in the moment. Again, I think Chuck Fletcher just simply wants to wait and see what's available to them. And in Joel Quenneville, there's some business that has to get attended to before he jumps back on an NHL bench. And it starts with a meeting with Commissioner Bettman. He's got to be reinstated and cleared to return to the National Hockey League. And I don't believe that process has happened just yet. So, one of those experienced guys, right? Like Quenneville, Torts, Mike Babcock. Babcock's got another year of pay, heavy salary from the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I don't think that he's in any big rush either. But those are the names that intrigue me the most.
Well, we will be watching with interest because I think, as you have mentioned, this could be as busy a coaching offseason as we have seen in some time. And there's also some general manager openings. I haven't heard out of Vegas yet. San Jose, obviously, looking for one. And who knows what else may happen.
With Lindy Ruff's assistants leaving, does that tell you Lindy Ruff is back in Jersey?
Sounds like it. They were pretty swift to acknowledge who's not coming back. The only one that surprised me there was Nasreddine. Alain Nasreddine has been tracking to be an NHL head coach.
That's what I thought.
So, to have him cut loose was a bit of a surprise. I didn't see that coming.
All right, Dregs, we'll let you get about your week. Thank you for this. We'll be listening to the Ray and Dregs podcast and catch up next Wednesday, my friend.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
Darren Dreger, our NHL insider here on Sekeres and Price.